finally been done. The finale of our little mini series is here. Part 5 of me constructing a new go-kart is finally done. It's all good. So essentially what I said in the last video was that the last things that had to be done were basically from what I remember, it was the seat. I needed the seat to be fitted, which was something that I couldn't do. The brakes to be blurred, that was something that I could technically do, but I have no idea what I'm doing. So instead of seizing the brakes and having to spend $2,000 to replace it on a brand new kart that hasn't touched the track before, I would prefer to have the kart shop do it, so that way it gets it's in good hands, and so I can learn from that, and because I can learn from that, I can then do it in the future because I know what I'm doing. And I do know what I'm doing now because it's been done. As you can see from the thumbnail, the seats there, everything's been done. And the final thing, which is something that I pretty sure we'll never be able to do, is the wheel alignment. That's the last thing. That's the third one, is the wheel alignment. And that's pretty simple. It's just the toe and camber adjusting. I said it's pretty simple. Doing it is really hard. Explaining it is fairly simple. It's just adjusting the toe and camber. So from what I remember, toe is the whether it's pointing inwards or pointing outwards, and camber is the actual angle of the tire. That's my recollection of it. I'm pretty sure that's right, but don't quote me on that. That's it really. Those are the only 3 things I needed to do before I could finally go out to the track, which I have done now, because the kart has been done for, about 2 days now, I think. And so yesterday, I sent it out to the track. I had my coach there with me as well, who also works at the kart shop. He coaches a lot of people, but one of them is me. And yeah, I was fanging it around, and he was helping me sort of get settled into the car. It's completely brand new. I'm about to race a 30mm chassis, whereas I have experience only with a 32mm chassis. Trust me, those 2mm do make a difference. When I got in and drove the kart for the first time, I thought, well, this thing's a rocket ship compared to the other kart. And I thought the other kart was fast, hitting 44, just barely 44-second lap times. Now I'm solidly in the 44s, and I'm getting to the point where I could, in the near future, start looking at 43s. So I'm getting there. Just recently, I hit, on the day that I was at the track, I hit a 44.76. And then I hit a 44.73. Literally about an hour apart, I hit those 2 lap times. So I have officially got a new lap record, which is a 44.73. And I literally got it on the day of me getting the new kart out, which was yesterday. So yeah, essentially what I'm here to say is the kart is done. It's all finished. Everything's all ready to go. I took it out to the track, and I actually got some overtaking practice as well. So the most amount of karts I've ever practiced with at a single time was 6, which is a while ago. But yesterday when I was on track, it matched that. So there were 6 karts again, and at least 3, if not 4 of them, were centralized in one group. And I was the fastest person on the track at that time. And so I was able to get some overtaking practice. And that was really, really good, because initially I was actually really scared to try and overtake, because I just assume everyone else is in the same position as me for safety of not trying to wreck the kart after it's literally brand new. So essentially when you're sitting in a go-kart, from my experience at least, which is fairly early on, I've got, let me think, 20 hours, maybe 25. Maybe 25 hours of seat time. Maybe. Probably closer to 20 than to 25, but somewhere around there, right? Between 20 and 25 seat hours, essentially, is somewhere around there, is my time in a go-kart, and I've never been to a single race before. So I don't have a massive amount of practice. It's sort of a bit I'm really good at hot laps. I'll put it that way. I'm really good at hot laps. I'm not really good at overtaking. And so when given the opportunity, I sort of what I used to do was essentially just hang behind someone and just chill there until they eventually made a mistake, and then I would just casually go past them, and I wasn't even going that fast either. I'd just casually accelerate past them and then book it when I was sure that I wasn't going to end up pit maneuvering myself on them or touching wheels and going off and spinning away. When I was sure I wasn't going to touch them, then I'd book it and go into the racing line again. That's not what I do anymore, but that's what I used to do. And my coach was like, oh, no. If you act like that during the race, you're not going anywhere. Which is fair enough, because absolutely not. I will not. It was more just a inexperienced thing, being nervous to try and overtake, rather than like that was genuinely what I was like wanted to do. I wanted to try and get like a really serious overtake. I was just nervous about wrecking the car, because it's literally been out, at this point, it had been out on track for half an hour, 45 minutes, like ever. It had touched a racetrack for the first time in 45 minutes. First time, no, it's brand new. It touched a racetrack for the first time ever, 45 minutes prior. So I didn't really want to wreck it. So I was just very conscious when I was trying for overtakes. But then my coach told me just sort of relax into it, get used to it, and then just try and book it instead of waiting till after you pass them to book it before you're even there and then go past them. Like, you can't do dive bombs and stuff like that. That's a lot more risky. But that sort of thing, you got to book it before you're near them, so that way you have the momentum to get past them. And that's what I did. And I ended up getting, in the span of 3 laps, which is approximately 2 minutes, based on my lap times, it was probably about 2.25 minutes. Based on race pace, it probably would have been closer to exactly 2 minutes. So across 3 laps, 10 to 15 seconds across 3 laps, that's a pretty big gap. But again, I'm very inexperienced, so I want to close that gap, but it's going to take some time. But yeah, so over the course of like just over 2 minutes, I overtook, what did I say, 4 karts. I overtook 4 karts. When they were like all in a pack, and they were actually like trying to make it, they were trying to defend positions. I think they were practicing defending. Because, it's a week until the race. So, literally, this is the 22nd of March. The race is on the 29th. So, my next upload is going to be about my performance in the race. So, it's so close to the race now. Like, the people who are showing up aren't here to just be casual. They're there because they're practicing for the race. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm there practicing for the race. I'm not there just to fluff around. So I think they were practicing defending and I was practicing overtaking. So it was like legitimately fun. It was like a bit of a dance almost, trying to get around the track and trying to get past everyone. It was a lot of fun. And it was also really good practice, because if you think about it, technically, yes, there are 20, 30 karts on the track at the same time. But realistically, if you are trying to focus on where all 19 or 29 other karts are in relation to you, you're going to crash because your corner's coming up and you're just going to go in a straight line. Like, you got no hope of trying to juggle all that stuff at once. It's way too much information. So realistically, you only really have to focus on 4 karts at a time. Who's in front, who's behind, and who's next to you. That's it. They are worried about who's next to them, and they're worried about you. So you don't have to worry about who's next to the person you're next to, 2 karts over. You don't have to really worry about that. Technically, yeah, in more advanced levels, you may want to expand your reach a bit. But this is my first ever club race, and this is club racing in general. Like, it's essentially like, you're not supposed to. It's club racing. You're not going to have national level competitors in a club race, are you? Like, the chance of them showing up is pretty small. So most people really don't want to try and focus on every single card at the same time, I'd imagine. Those that do are probably going to be really stressed, and they're probably going to end up causing an accident. Because that's the main thing. Like, if you are constantly thinking about, and my dad's a helicopter pilot, so he tells me this he was, not anymore, he just tells me this all the time, constantly, is that, like, if you keep, and my coach even echoed this statement as well, because he's a pilot and a racing driver, and so, they both echoed the same sentiment, which is that if you're focusing on, like, if you're focusing on crashing, like, oh, am I gonna crash? How do I avoid a crash? How do I do that? How do I make sure that I don't crash? I don't want to crash. I don't want to crash. You're gonna be the cause of the crash. You're not only are you going to crash, it's gonna be your fault when the crash happens because you're gonna be the one that caused it. Because you're so busy thinking about I don't want to crash that you end up crashing. And so I don't think about crashing at all, really. It's a very off-track thing. Like, I do think about, well, I don't think about it. I have occasional thoughts of crashing and how I don't want to do that because the kart's brand new. But that's a very off-track thing. When I'm on the track, I couldn't care less. I still have, like, some protective instinct of the kart, but at the end of the day, it's practice. No one wants to break their kart on practice, you know? It's the race where people get a lot more, people care a lot less and they're willing to expend a lot more because they're probably going to have to rebuild half the engine after the race anyway, especially if it's their, like, if they've been practicing heaps in the off season, they've been practicing heaps, and now they're doing this race. Now they're probably going to have to rebuild the whole engine because it's been 30 run hours or something. By that point, you're going to have to rebuild the whole engine anyway. So what's the matter if you end up in the gravel? Yeah, I've already been there. I've already done that. So I sort of know about that a bit. In fact, that was the other thing. When I was trying to get used to the kart, I went into the gravel trap 3 times. I'm not even joking. I went into the gravel trap 3 times trying to get used to the kart. And it wasn't even it wasn't a complete skill issue. I'm actually dead serious. It wasn't a skill issue. Twice, it was too aggressive of a steering angle. So 2 separate times, it was my fault. And I looked over it on there's this thing called a Unipro, which is like a data logger for the go-kart. I looked over that, being my own engineer, I looked over it and I made sure that I had a look at, like, what happened? Like, what changed? Why did I crash? Why did I spin out? And essentially, it was that it was just too aggressive of a steering angle. So on the particular corner, which you would remember actually if you've been following the channel recently, or after this video, if you go and watch the video, I think it was Seconds Before Disaster Part 2, I think, where I went off into the gravel. That exact corner, that's the only gravel trap on the whole track, by the way, so that's the one I'm talking about. That corner before the gravel trap is literally one of the hardest corners on the whole track, and the only way to do it well is to do a corner that was 3 corners earlier, that's about 10 seconds earlier in the track. If you do that corner well, then the gravel trap corner is good. If you do that corner bad, the gravel trap corner is going to send you straight into the gravel trap. And actually, some of the time, I actually did the previous corner earlier. I did that well, but then I just had too aggressive of a steering angle because the steering's so much lighter on the new kart compared to the old one. The old one's really stiff because it's old and it's not very well lubricated. I put WD-40 on it about 3 separate times and it was still really stiff. And whereas this new steering wheel is so smooth. Like, you can touch the tire and just push on it like a tiny bit, and it goes full lock. Like, obviously you're going to be on the kart stand, so there's no friction on it. But literally, you just lightly push the front tire, and the whole thing goes full lock. That's how light the steering is. It's really light. And so just getting used to how little input I needed for how much more result ended up with me, of all the corners I could have made that mistake on, it happened to be the corner with the gravel trap, so I went off there 3 times. So that was 2 of the times, was too aggressive of a steering angle. The last one, I have no idea what happened. I've literally looked at it. I've checked it over multiple times. I've looked at it. I compared my fastest lap, the 44.73, to the lap where I went off, and I looked at the corner, the exact same corner for both laps. I did exactly the same thing. I'm not even joking. I did exactly the same thing. Maybe there's, like, because of the satellites, because there is a warning on the Unipro data logger that because it relies on satellites, sometimes it can be inaccurate. Maybe there's some micro little detail that I'm missing that I haven't seen, and that's what's causing it. But I looked at my racing line. It's exactly the same. Steering angle, lateral G, exactly the same. It was like 0.01 difference or something. Like, you couldn't even tell. Like, it was so small. there was no difference, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. As far as I could tell, there was no difference whatsoever. One time, I got my fastest ever lap. The next time, I went off into the gravel trap. So I have no idea what happened there. And like, I'm not going to try and spend a huge amount of time trying to figure it out, because at the end of the day, I know what to do. It's just don't have too aggressive of a steering angle. But for that last one, mate, I got no idea what happened. I think that might have just been a random thing. Like, there was really no cause. I did nothing wrong prior. I had a perfectly good corner prior, the corner that sets up the gravel trap corner. I did that corner perfectly fine. I didn't drift through the corner at all, which is generally what happens if you drift through that corner, because it's a big U-turn. Not like a hairpin, it's a very smooth, long turn. If you carry too much speed and drift through that corner, that's when you go off in the gravel trap. That's what happened the previous 2 times. I drifted through that corner and then too aggressive of a steering angle, and then I went off. This third time, perfectly good corner, not aggressive steering angle, exactly the same as my fastest lap, but I went off. So, I got no idea what happened, to be honest. I got absolutely no idea. But yeah, I'll just keep figuring it out. I'll just get used to it. Pretty much that's it, just getting used to the steering. The brakes are a bit stiffer. The pedal doesn't travel as far, and the brakes hit like slightly harder, a fraction harder than the Tony Kart, but the brake is like literally it's like an actual racing car, right? So it's like the classic comparison of racing car from throttle to brake. You know, the throttle is a feather that goes really far down, and the brake is a concrete brick, a concrete slab that you push with all your might, and it moves like 2 mil. But the whole car's like trying to stop. Like it's literally like that. The brake pedal feels like, I know visually because I've seen when I'm starting the kart and you're standing and you got the throttle and the brake and you're modulating it to warm up the engine before you go out on track. I know because I'm looking at it, I can see how far the brake moves. It does actually move a little bit, maybe a centimeter or 2 roughly. But it doesn't feel like it. It feels like it's moving 2 mil, like I said before. It feels like I'm trying to push a concrete brick into the cart. And it feels like I'm trying to push that forward. Like, it feels like it doesn't move at all. But then the brakes are so hard. So I'm sort of just trying to get used to that. Because that was not how it felt on the Tony Kart whatsoever. Half the time it felt like it wasn't even slowing down. The brakes were just the brake lines were fading on the kart, which I imagine is partly why the brakes just felt like they weren't working half the time, because the brake lines were fading, they were getting worse. I'm actually surprised they didn't brake, to be honest. But yeah, it happens. Things wear out. So, and the car's really old too. I don't know how long the guy had it before I had it. He didn't tell me whether he bought it new or whether he got it from someone else. Maybe it's a third-hand cart. I don't know. But as far as I'm aware, it's a second-hand cart that's fairly old. But yeah, that's pretty much it, essentially. So, a bit of a yap session, to be honest, about me going off track and then being passionate about how I went into the gravel trap again. I just keep doing it. I'm very good at going off into the gravel trap when it's no stakes whatsoever. Absolutely no stakes. I'm really good at going off into the gravel trap. And I do not want that to be representative of my future, because I can promise you I do not want to be like a certain someone who's going to be doing that. Like, there's some people who are like higher up in motorsport who like definitely, you know who we're talking about. No, like everyone knows that they spin out all the time. Some people are like that. Some people take a very long time to get used to the machinery, and so because of that they spin out a lot and they make mistakes all the time. I want to make sure, absolutely, above all else pretty much, that I am not going to be one of those people. I do not want to be seen as one of those people. I'm going to make sure that I don't do that, because that's going to be really bad for me if I end up being seen as that person that goes off into the gravel trap all the time, or just spins out all the time. I do not want to be labelled as that. That is a complete like opposite side of the spectrum. I want to be as far away from there as I can. I want to be a very clean driver who like under pressure seems to make no mistakes. That would be my preference. I don't know how long it's going to take training to get there, but we'll find out. I've got a long time. I have quite a long time. You know, a racing career generally takes over a decade to develop to like the peak where you want to go when you're at the top of the ladder. You are where you want to be. You're at the top of the ladder. It almost always takes over a decade. So I've got a long time to train it, and it really all starts with the foundations, karting, club racing. You know, all the foundational work. That's where it all starts. So yeah, essentially just a quick recap is that the Jekko seat has been fitted. It's a different brand to the Tony Kart one. It's a much better seat, by the way. It's really, really good. So the seat's been fitted, the brakes have been bled, the wheel alignment's been done. The kart is fully scrutineered as well, so it's going to get scrutineered again on race day. But provided no one touches anything, it'll pass. It will pass. It is good. I'm going to double check it again before race day just to make sure, like on the next practice session that I go to next week sometime. Probably a couple of days before the race, I'm going to practice again. I'll double check it again to make sure. So yeah, it's scrutineered, it's all good. And I went out and I achieved a PB again, which is a 44.76, and then again a 44.73 a bit later. So essentially, overarching fastest lap of all time, 44.73 done on the first day I got into the car within, I think it was an hour and a half, roughly. Hour and a half, 2 hours within that time frame. So say within 2 hours of getting on track in the kart for the very first time, and I already hit my fastest lap ever by over 0.2 of a second. No, exactly 0.2 of a second. Sorry. So yeah, and then also just getting used to the kart and making mistakes. It's the hardest corner on the whole track. I'm still getting used to it. I'll get there. I haven't been in the gravel trap in a long time until yesterday. But yeah, I'll get there. I'll make sure I'll practice that corner a lot. I'll lap the track so many times just to practice that one single corner. I'll go around the track so many times. My tires will be like 300 laps old just so I get enough tries at this one corner so that I never go into the gravel trap again. At least like something that wasn't my fault. Outside things that may shove me off, what can I do about that? Nothing, right? So I don't care about that. There's nothing I can do about that. But things that are my own fault, my own mistakes, I want to make sure that anything that could be my fault that sends me into the gravel trap isn't going to happen. And however many practices or races that takes, we'll see. But yeah, so that's really about it. And I will see you after my very first race. Bye, everybody.